the real Teofimo Lopez that we saw beat Vasily Lomachenko, I think this was a better performance than even that, because Shantelle, you had him winning 10 out of the 12 rounds. I had him winning the exact same, 118, 110. Saw some people had the same scorecard. Saw some people 117, 111. I think Max Kellerman had it 117, 111. Mark Kriegel might have had it the same, but I missed it. And the two 115, 113s, whatever, but don't want to get bogged down in that necessarily. Teofimo Lopez is a story here. And I felt like going into this, I'll say it right off the top, wasn't sure because the press conference, it was just weird shit. And it's like, it can go either way. Like either someone's so far gone or they're just so locked in that it's almost like uncanny, right? And he was awesome. I thought he dominated, especially after round 3, really kicked it into gear. He started dancing in front of Josh Taylor, and that's when you kind of knew he was in a special rhythm. Teofimo Lopez has not been like that in a while, and it was very fun to see just him just do all that to Josh Taylor, who, look, this was a guy who was undisputed at 140, and Teofimo Lopez is dancing in front of his face and beat him like no one's beaten him before. Not even Jack Catterall, who a lot of people thought beat Josh Taylor. It wasn't like this. It was not like this.
Yeah, I thought he absolutely dominated. And this was really interesting coming into this fight because you're right. There were a lot of questions about Teofimo Lopez. I just want to say I was right about my bet, though. I said to take him straight up on the money line. I thought there was a chance he could get the knockout. And there were some times in that fight where I was like, oh, Teo's got him shook, right? I thought he was going to finish him off. But at the same time, I didn't bet that way because, I mean, no one's actually stopped Josh Taylor before. And it looked, someone wrote, Jesus, I'm guessing.
Gotta be Jesus. We can call you Jesus if you want, but it's probably Jesus. Jesus says Taylor's awkward athletics gave Taylor problems. Taylor, he also adds, Taylor was sloppy in a funky way. I thought
he looked sharp. I thought Teofimo Lopez looked very, very sharp.
Yeah. Like he was dancing, he was having a good time in there. He was countering, he was landing these check left hooks when Taylor would try to lunge in and close the gap. He couldn't bully him. We talked about this leading up to the fight. Taylor likes to bully guys with his size. He's not somebody who's always going to fight at a distance, right? He likes to get inside and actually, break you down from the inside. And look, that's worked out in a lot of different times. He tried it with Jack Catterall, didn't work. He had some success with it against Regis Prograis and ultimately did win that fight, even though, we both felt like probably it was a draw. But didn't work against Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez, one of those guys, probably stronger as he moves up in weight, right? And you called it. You nailed this bet. I thought that if Teofimo Lopez won, it was going to be a stoppage, and we didn't quite get that. But there were a couple times. Yeah. There were a couple times where I was like, "Oh, is Josh Taylor ready to go?" And to Josh Taylor's credit, I want to get your thoughts on this. The layoff, he did not blame it on the layoff at all. He was just kind of like, "Yo, don't blame it on the layoff. That wasn't the issue. Just the better man won," that kind of thing. And 16 months away from the ring, I mean, there's going to be some rust, but it didn't feel like that was a factor tonight because Teo was so dominant.
I mean, I think there was some rust, but I think Teo was just more focused than ever. This is arguably his best performance. And when you take a look at his resume now, you got Josh Taylor on there, you got Lomachenko on there, you got Nakatani, Comey, Sandor Martin. You cannot hate on this man anymore. Everything that we were saying, all these questions, I think he shut them down. Because now you've beaten a guy that was undisputed. Josh Taylor had to give up 3 out of his 4 belts because he was waiting for that Jack Catterall rematch. It never happened. He decided to fight Teofimo Lopez. And, I know what's going to happen. A lot of the Josh Taylor fans are going to be like, well, he was injured in that Jack Catterall fight. And he wasn't himself. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, Jack Catterall got robbed, in my opinion.
And a lot of people's opinion.
Yeah, and then he takes a long layoff, comes into this fight, and is the favorite. And he should have been the favorite, for obvious reasons. But this type of performance shows you, it kind of shows you how elite Teofimo Lopez is once he's focused. Because that's all it really is. I mean, this guy's also going through a divorce, which is kind of what I read outside of the ring. And I think at this point, he was just like, you know what? I'm not going to focus on everything else. I'm just going to focus on boxing. This was like a performance we saw that he had against Lomachenko. Similar, because we saw skill.
Better.
And even when he fought Pedro Campa, and I was at that fight, I was like, Teo's getting hit a lot. Like, he's got to work on his defense. His footwork in tonight's fight was epic. Jesus also said that style won't work versus Matias and Ramirez. Matias is the boogeyman. We'll see where he's going to
I
sign.
think it might. I think he might be okay against Ramirez. I don't know about Matias though. I don't.
That's a whole different other ball game. Also,
we'll get to the future in a second, because there was some smoke about that. I was at the weigh-in. We posted this on our channel. You can go check that out, TheMandatory, on YouTube. And Teofimo didn't say what was next, because he said that he's going to be in a custody battle, for his son. And as you mentioned, things outside of the ring, whatever. But Teofimo Lopez Sr. and Bill Haney got into it at the weigh-in. And they basically were like, hey, look, and it's boxing. So like, this is probably bullshit. We'll see if it actually happens. But Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney at 140. I mean, Devin Haney's not going to fight Shakur Stevenson. I'm okay with Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. I don't know who's winning that fight, but I feel like a lot of people will lean Teofimo after this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people at one point thought we were going to get Teofimo and Devin Haney because they've been going at it in social media for a few years now. However, let's just get into it, Bryan, because now there's talk about who he's going to fight at 140. And a guy that we had on the show, Arnold Barbosa Jr., tweeted, "Congratulations, Teofimo Lopez. Let's run it anytime, any day." Now, that's a fight that can happen if Teo's still going to be under the Top Rank banner. And I think that's really interesting. Regis Prograis was kind of giving him props during the fight as well. Possible fight with maybe Regis if they can make it happen. But Twisted Tapioca is saying Haney and Lopez have been going at it for sure.
That's not his real name. I know who that is.
Who is it?
Thank you for being here. Nah, I won't out him. That's my boy. But
okay.
Yeah,
I like the name though. It's witty, right?
That's my guy. But look, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I would like to see Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. I would like to see Teofimo Lopez versus as Jesus mentioned, Jose Ramirez, Subriel Matias, like any of the top guys. Like 140 is fun. 140 is a great weight class right now. Regis Prograis is the WBC champion. You have Teofimo Lopez now has WBO. Subriel Matias, where is he going to fight next? He has the IBF, and Rolly Romero has a WBA, which, he shouldn't have, whatever. And we'll see what happens with that. Maybe he fights Ryan Garcia, because that's something that's been bandied about. I personally think Ryan Garcia will win that fight.
Yes.
But look, I think that there is a lot to be done here. You have Top Rank has a title. Matchroom has a title. PBC has a title with Rolly Romero, and Subriel Matias. We don't really know where he's gonna go. He's been a PBC fighter, but there's been talk about him signing with Matchroom potentially. And I always think that the Puerto Rican fighters should give Top Rank a look, as you saw with Xander Zayas, who we may talk about a little bit before this ends. Any other big takeaways from this? Just Teofimo's performance, to me, is the best that he's looked since Lomachenko, and I did not expect that coming into this fight.
No, I think my biggest takeaway is, and this is just what, everyone goes back to your last performance, right? So my whole thing is, after everyone was kind of hating on Teo, right? Saying that, listen, this guy's going to get beat by Josh Taylor. He's no good. He proved everyone wrong. That's what I like about this performance, because at one point we were all high on Teofimo Lopez, right? 135 goes into that fight with George Kambosos Jr. We all know what happened. Just went in there to knock him out.
Massive favorite for that fight, by the way.
And now we're looking at him, and let's be serious now. He's got a belt. All right. This guy is a 2-division champion.
He beat a former undisputed champion. He beat the guy who won the World Boxing Super Series at this weight class. He beat a guy who was pound for pound, Ring Magazine pound for pound. I think at one point, I don't know if he was before this fight, but he's not going to be after this. And
I don't care if Rolly has a belt. He's not on the top 5 for this top 5
list.
No.
I was talking about Josh Taylor.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna make the list, I would have to put Teofimo Lopez at number 2 now.
We are gonna rank our top guys from 140. Regis Prograis has a fight this coming week, who was all over TV because they were putting his tweets on air, which I found that very interesting that ESPN was doing that. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, Tony. For our audio listeners, he's saying that I've been going at it with my hairline. My hairline is okay, but it was very sharp about 5-7 years ago.
I didn't have to do that to you either, but I saw it. That was hilarious, Tony. Thanks for that one. But you were talking about how your hairline was looking sharp. Teofimo Lopez looking sharp as well.
Really?
And I mean, like we gotta roll with it. Okay? These are good segues. All right. What I want to ask you though is, does this make Teofimo Lopez one of the biggest stars in boxing again? This win.
The way he did it, I mean, he's in the top 10 in terms of just star power. Like, he still has the ESPN machine, top ranked machine for now. We'll see how long that lasts. And people chime into the conversation. We've got some people watching here. Do comment. We'll get to some more comments as we have throughout the show. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think should come next. It's always a topic of discussion in boxing. But yeah, in terms of stardom, like, I wish this was in the big house. I don't like that this was in the theater. And I don't think that's really a knock on Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, because I think it would have done well in the big house. But it's just weird that this, to me, was a theater fight. I think this should have been something in the big house. But I still think he is a big star, and one of the biggest stars that Top Rank has for sure. Tony Yayo, our guy, who's always here in our lives, comments, Josh Taylor looks so uncoordinated in there, which is funny. I was surprised that he didn't blame ring rust, but he took his loss like an adult. And I think we can get to the Josh Taylor portion of this, right? Like, where does he kind of go from here? The Jack Catterall rematch is not coming, and I just don't think Jesus.
Jesus has a good comment here, and I want to get into this comment. Jesus says, "Come on, guys, we can." He says we can overhype Teo on this win. Boxers need to be consistent. Here's the thing, though.
Teo on this win.
I don't think we're overhyping Teo on this win. You know why? Because listen, look at the guys he has on his resume, and the thing about it is, like, the Nakatani performance, we're like, whatever, right? Then he goes out, he knocks out Richard Comey in the second round.
Yeah,
and we're like, okay, it's a little bit of a better performance, and then he goes and beats Lomachenko. Right, he's had some questionable fights, the George Kambosos Jr. one, and Sandor Martin, where we were like, did he lose?
I had him win by a point, but I mean,
there's questions about it. But other than that, like, are we overhyping him? I don't.
No, I think. Well, I would say to Jesus this: like, remember, Josh Taylor was undisputed and the lineal champion. Like, now Teofimo Lopez is the guy who beat the guy, which he's done it in 2 weight classes now, right? Like, so I do think Jesus is onto something where the consistency, like, all right, I would like to see if Teofimo Lopez, whether it's a rematch, whether it's Devin Haney, like, let's see him have another one of these performances, right? But his resume is to be respected at this point, though. Like, George Kambosos, like, I think we can all, I don't think anyone historically, if we're ranking all these fighters, I don't think anyone's putting George Kambosos ahead of Teofimo Lopez. I think people are saying Teofimo Lopez just didn't fight the fight he should have fought. And sometimes that happens. Yeah. But ultimately, I think let's get him in the ring with somebody else who's one of the top guys at 140, a Devin Haney, for example, if the dads are actually going to come together and make that fight, right? And if you